Welcome everyone. This session is called Behind the Scenes, building a conference winning session or a conference winning technical session. I have absolutely no idea which one I put on the schedule. A short introduction is appropriate. My name is Sami Laiho. I'm a Microsoft MVP for the past 10 years and I live in Finland. I am about 40 kilometers from Helsinki, sitting in my basement at my summer cottage. This is home theater and the only place here which has any proper acoustics. I've been sitting here for a year now. I'm getting cabin fever, to say the least. Normally I travel more than 200 days a year, and now I flew once to get a puppy from Wales, but that's the only flight I've taken in like more than a year now. So very different times. I normally would not go through my trophies, but I guess on this session it is appropriate, which means I have to somehow kind of verify my existence or the why am I here and why am I doing a session like this. So I've been a public speaker for maybe about 12 years or so, but only about 7 years ago I started touring around the world. So I switched to English. I used to be speaking in Finnish only, which no one would understand. And I have been a Microsoft certified trainer for more than half of my life. And I have been an IT pro because of my dad's company for even longer. But I also teach a lot of public speaker skills and a lot of I take care of conferences. Like the guys here do a great job. I do mine on a conference called Tech Mentor, which is run twice a year in US. We just postponed the Redmond one in August, but we're still aiming for an on-site conference for Tech Mentor Orlando in the end of the year. Anyway, I'm a co-chair for that with a good friend of mine, Dave Kavula from Canada. When I started my career at Microsoft events, the bigger ones, I went to TechEd for the first time in 2013 as a speaker. And in 2014, I was able to get the best speaker or best session prize from basically all of those TechEd conferences, and then changed to Ignite. And I guess the best I've ever done was Ignite 2018, where I won the conference as the best session. Well, there's only like a best session award there, but I had the best session out of 1,708 sessions, about 1,700 speakers. And I actually got the second prize as well. So mine were number 1 and number 2 out of 1,708 sessions. And kind of the icing on the cake was the fact that I won the conference with a session titled How to Build a Conference Winning Session. So now actually the people who have been listening to me, they told me that the next year I couldn't win anymore, because if I won, that meant I was holding back because someone that was watching the show needed to win. Well, anyway, let's just go through a little bit about what it takes to build these sessions. I do have a small disclaimer here, which is that this is kind of a magician revealing their tricks. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to try to tell that everyone should be doing what I'm doing. I'm not trying to say that I am not technically very good at what I do, although I'm going to tell you that the sessions are not that much about tech or my skills in tech. It feels a little bit bad because I kind of like give out the tips of how I moved from being in the top 100 to top 10 and finally at the top. And I hope you don't use this against me. Okay, well, if you're gonna win a conference after this, I've done my job perfect. So just go and knock yourself out. If you want to reach me, the easiest way is Twitter. I'm very active there. I do have a few blogs and stuff like that. You can find all information about me on my own personal website, and you can reach me via email whenever you need. I have another screen here next to you, and if you're going to chat something, then when you see me looking like this, that means I'm not being impolite, but I'm actually looking at what you're writing because I have a summer house setup. Anyway, what we started doing about 10 minutes before with Vesa, I was kind of like hoping that he would be there because we spoke about this session previously on in another conference. And one of the things that, especially if you're speaking to a US audience, I don't want to put people in the buckets, but honestly, like especially for US audiences, you should go early to your room and start talking to your audience. It makes them feel comfortable, it makes them feel like you're friendly, and it gives you a lot of bonus points. I've gotten the best feedback like I've ever gotten from TechEd, for example. They always said that 20 minutes before the session even started, Sami was there already entertaining the audience. I like the commitment. And honestly, just do that. It also relaxes. I don't know if it relaxes you or not. It might be really difficult to believe, but I'm an extremely introvert person when I get off the stage. So I can tell you it's not easy for me either to try to go there and speak to people. But I mean, it does help me, at least for my presentations. If I would have to do a presentation on Teams, I'm really sorry, but I'm quite sure you would notice that that would not be my best session. If you would hire me and tell me that, Sami, you have to talk about Excel. Sami, you have to talk about Visio templates. I mean, I'm very good at faking enthusiasm, but that only comes with experience. I've done that. I mean, I used to be a person who didn't like PowerShell that much, but I knew everyone else would, or everyone else did, and I would have to, which meant that I would actually go outside of the room before my session started, and I would speak to myself. I would just look at a mirror somewhere or a wall, and I would speak to myself like, I actually like PowerShell. I mean, I think PowerShell is actually going to be very important. I'm actually already I think I actually like it. I mean, it's not that bad, and it's the future, and I think I actually do like it. And then I would run in front of the audience and then just give a hell of a presentation about how much I love PowerShell, even if I didn't. But I couldn't do that in the beginning, and you would instantly know. And this is super easy. If you go to any session at any major conference, you know if the person who's presenting likes their topic or not. You can smell that a mile away. I mean, if people are speaking about things that they don't like at all, I always say that you have to love what you're talking about. You have to speak about things that you love. So try to pick a topic that you like if you think you're going to win a show. Trust me, you're not going to win a show by picking a title that Microsoft wants you to pick because you think it's important and it's going to give you a great score because it's an important topic. That has never ever worked out. I have won a conference talking about BitLocker basics in 2013, which I had been presenting for more than 7 years already. Not with a cool new topic, but with a very old topic that I really like. Be bold, but not offending. This is marketing. This is where I get my money from, doing sessions like this. I mean, this is not paying me, but it is giving me the visibility that I need to get my stuff out there. And actually, my money comes from people hiring me for consulting, which I do a lot now because of Corona, because there's no travel and less courses. But normally I teach 4 days a week. I teach Windows internals or Windows security or Windows troubleshooting. The people I get on my class come through these sessions. So this is my marketing. And when you go to a session, to a conference like Ignite, there's 1,708 sessions back in 2018, a little bit more in 2019. If you're going to stand out of that crowd, if you're going to stand out of those, stand up, like be on a pedestal a little bit above at least most of the sessions. To stand out, you have to do something special. It might be really, some people might find it weird, but there's actually so many bold people at Ignite that can grow hair. I mean, if they want to, they can grow hair. But it's a lot easier to be noticed from a crowd if you don't have any hair. There are people who wear hats. Good friend of mine wears a green hat, man with the hat, Rick Claus. So there are ways of being noticed. Some of them, it's easy. Like in Finland, we have Panu. Everyone notices Panu because he's half a meter taller than anyone else. I mean, some people have it. I don't. There's nothing special about me in that sense. So what I did was I did something bold, but you don't want to be offending. You don't want to call anyone stupid. I mean, you don't want to offend people, but you also have to take some risks and you have to be bold. People have done this to me many times, especially after this. So when I went to my first tech ed and I did a session called Windows 8 Black Belt Troubleshooting. First of all, I couldn't get into tech ed for years. I tried like 6 or 7 years before I got in. Every year I send out proposals. Many people give up after 1 or 2, but I did that for like 7 years, 2 times, 3 times a year. I would post and I would never get in. And then I met a very smart guy who recently retired from our business, Mark Minassi. Mark is an exceptional performer, and he is like one of the best speakers I have ever known. I have the privilege of having him as a personal friend nowadays, and when I spoke to him about my sessions, I showed him what I had, and he was like, your stuff is really good and really cool, and you teach it in a really entertaining way, but oh boy, do your titles suck. And I was trying in with Windows 8 troubleshooting. Deployment and managing Windows Server 2012. I mean, so boring and lame. And Mark said, take your titles, but you have to put in Kung Fu, Ninja, hacking, cracking, something like that, karate stuff, ninja stuff, something like that, and then you can get in. And I changed my title the next year to Windows 8 Black Belt Troubleshooting, and I instantly got in. No kidding. Michael Niehaus gave me the last slot of the conference, which people think is the worst slot of the conference. But Mark Minassi taught me something else. He's a mathematician, and he actually told me that you should be very happy if you get the last slot, because if you get the last slot at TechEd, that means many people have already left because the conference is ending, and only people who really want to see you are staying there, which means you have a pre-warmed audience. They already like you before coming into the room. They're not forced to sit somewhere like you do in the middle of the conference to just like spend some time. So I got in, I did this session, and at that time I knew that Mark Rusinovich, well, the most talented person I know, Mark Rusinovich was working at Microsoft, and he had the highest possible technical title at Microsoft, which is a technical fellow. I'm a self-employed one-man company, which means I can print my own business cards and pick up my own titles. So I just built all my business cards and all my slides calling myself a senior technical fellow. At Microsoft, there's only one senior technical fellow, Dave Cutler, who wrote the kernel itself. And that's like a Highlander story. Like if you are, I mean, there can only be one. I mean, as long as he's there, he's going to be a senior technical fellow and the only one. So this started off the thing where people started speaking on the corridors like, I mean, who's the young guy from Finland? He's like first time here, but he's already a senior technical fellow, and Mark Rusinovich is only a technical fellow. Nowadays, I play the same prank, but it goes against Jeffrey Snower, the inventor of PowerShell, because Jeffrey Snower is now a technical fellow, and I'm still a senior technical fellow. I did also some tricks to prove people this. I showed them that in Windows, I actually, when you're very close to the operating system itself and you've been working with it for so long, the difference between a technical fellow and a senior technical fellow is that only when you worked long enough with Microsoft and the operating system's core, you get your own personal keyboard layout. So I actually have one, Finnish with Sami. You can try to find English with Mark. I can tell you it does not exist. If you're trying to get in 1,700 sessions, you're trying to get from top 100 to top 10. You can get to top 100 by knowing your stuff technically well. I mean, if you know your tech, if you know answer to every question about your product, or if you know every geeky question, all the geeky answers to any question about teams or whatever, you can get to top 100. You can get to top 100 by being very professional and being a good speaker and knowing your tech. That's absolutely possible. But if you're going from top 100 to top 10, then it needs to be a show. That changes the business completely. You cannot do a presentation where you know your stuff extremely well, but you're boring. That needs to be a show. That's show business, especially in US. That means you need to be entertaining. Not just technically superb, but I mean, you need to be entertaining, even if you wouldn't be technically superb. I've always kept my bar there that I will not go and talk about a topic that I don't know any answer for, because that means that people will not think I'm just a clown because I'm just making fun and being a stand-up comedian. Because if you ask me anything about Windows, I will answer your question. I'm not saying I'm going to do that on the session all the time, just talking about Windows. It might be a show. But if someone does interrupt me and ask things, I don't want to be the one who just gets caught of just being a clown. Okay? But if you want to get to top 10, then you can't find a session there that's just about tech. Here's a great example of that. This is a real presentation from TechEd Australia 2013. The first time I won TechEd as the best speaker, best session, actually won all possible prizes there. There's only about maybe a few hundred speakers there. But anyway, the first one for me, I actually flew there just after I verified that Mark Rusinovich, Mark Minasi, Jeffrey Snower, Don Jones, for example, that they are not speaking there. I asked them and they said, we don't want to take the long flight. It's too long. 2 days, such a long flight for 2 days, no way. And I knew instantly that I will do whatever it takes to get there, because there I had a chance of winning, because I thought I could not compete with Mark Rusinovich. So I went there, none of the big names were there, and that was my best session ever in a way. But the session is funny in that sense that you can see the PowerPoint here. This is slide 41 out of 50. You can see the title of the session, Black Belt Troubleshooting Windows 8. 41 slides. That is the first slide that mentions Windows 8. So for 40 slides, I've already been speaking about something that is not even in the title. This is why I said a disclaimer. You don't have to do what I'm doing. And this is like a magician revealing the tricks, because of course, I mean, I'm not sure what your moral says about it, but 41 slides about something, 40 slides about something totally different, and then the last 10 slides are about the topic. Okay, there's like, please give feedback and thank you and whatever. So probably like 6 to 7 slides about the topic. Yet I won the best session of the show. Well, one thing that I needed also was to make people remember me. So the story of senior technical fellow was great. That's just fun, but that's still that's just geeky. But that's not so different. I mean, although I would be the only senior technical fellow at the show, it was still not enough to make people remember me, and that's why I wanted to start giving out some swag. And I wanted to make sure that people remember me, and I wanted to come up with good stories. This is actually kind of funny because this all started and became my trademark. So I'm probably the best known around the world of wearing these shirts that say järjestelmänvalvoja, which is the Finnish word for administrator. So when English operating systems get administrator and you log on with that, we get järjestelmänvalvoja, and we log on with that. The good thing is that we don't need any passwords, because no one's ever gonna freaking guess the username. So, and they don't even have the letters required for this. Those umlauts are not even on a US keyboard. But anyway, so our language is different. People call it even difficult. I mean, when you get gpedit.msc, we get ryhmäkäytäntöobjekti-editori, which is almost as simple as gpedit. But I mean, the whole thing ended up being like my trademark. I started giving out I started giving out t-shirts, I started giving out lids, I started giving out beanies, I started giving out stickers. And all around the world, wherever I travel, I see these stickers on people's laptops. And this is what I intended to do. As fast as possible, get to be remembered for something. But the funny thing about the whole thing about järjestelmävalvoja and the backstory in this is that it actually only was because of a joke. So what happened was that I wanted to tell a joke in Australia. My intention was telling a joke. I had picked a joke. I do this even today, even on this session. Even when I built this session, I first picked up the jokes. So I first picked up the jokes I'm going to tell, and then I have to get a segue from point to another and lead up to the joke. There might be 10 slides because of a single joke, and then I have to fit tech into it so that it's actually a technical session as well. I don't want you leaving this session without learning something. I mean, that I'm a teacher at heart. That's what I am, and I want you to learn. I'm here to learn, make you learn, but I've learned myself that people learn way better when they are having fun while learning. And that's always been my thing. Keep people entertained so they don't fall asleep. I have very good proof that people in the audience learn better if they're awake. I mean, I can easily prove that, okay? I wanted to tell a joke. The joke was, what is a Gollum hangover? So you all know Gollum from Lord of the Rings, the gray creature. So what's a Gollum hangover? A Gollum hangover is when you wake up gray and naked behind a rock and you lost the ring. Okay? That was my joke. I wanted to tell that. But now the problem was I had absolutely no idea of how to get a Gollum hangover into Windows 8 troubleshooting session. So, well, what I did luckily know was that J.R.R. Tolkien, the guy who wrote the language of the elves for Lord of the Rings, he was a linguist and he designed the language of the elves based on Finnish, which means that that's really cool. I mean, it's not cool if I walk around the corridors at Ignite and people are like, hey, see, he speaks Finnish. Like, they couldn't care less. They're like, what the heck is that? But nowadays, people walk past me and then I hear them whispering, that's the guy who speaks Elvish. Because now they in the US believe that I speak Elvish. I didn't have to tell them that it's not exactly Elvish, but it's based on Finnish anyway. And then I had to get that Finnish into the story somehow. And then I just remembered that, oh my God, we have the really ridiculous, because I had always problems in logging on to a server that was some weirdo had used language back on a server. And I remember I tried to log on with the local administrator account because Active Directory was down and we had to use the Active Directory services repair mode and I needed the local account and it was just, I couldn't get it working. And then someone said, well, it's järjestelmävalvoja. Like, what? Like, oh, okay. So stories are better. It's way cooler speaking Elvish than it is speaking Finnish. So you have to storify everything. I don't want to teach people how they to talk to your service desk, you need to be accurate and you need to do this. No, I want to show them stories. I mean, I don't want to have this. I don't want to get a message that says, my computer just broke. What did you do? Because it tells me nothing. I don't know if the monitor broke or the keyboard. Plus, it has the assumption that IT breaks things. It's our job. Anyway, I don't want this. On the other hand, the next one is something I got delivered on my table when I was working for the service desk for PepsiCo when I was a kid, 16 years old. And I had told everyone I need proper error descriptions. And someone actually brought this. I mean, someone had just written down the whole blue screen of NT4. I mean, I don't do anything with this either. Well, things have changed. Nowadays, you can just take pictures, which is great. But anyway, I mean, someone actually wrote it down. I don't know what to call this. The Australian audience, when I showed this, they said, Sami, we call it dedication. So stories. You teach by telling a story instead of trying to feed boring technical things. Stories are great, but war stories are better. And this was the really best thing that has ever happened to me was at TechEd Australia. So I was there. I was about to do my most important session of my life, and I fell sick. I had a horrible 40-degree fever. I was shivering, burning hot, cold in my hotel room next to the venue. And I was so sick, I don't remember if I've ever been as sick. Now, I took ibuprofen as much as I could. I just tried to somehow stay alive. But then the bad thing that happened was that I completely lost my voice. I mean, I couldn't whisper, I couldn't make any sound. And I am going in front of the biggest audience I have ever seen, the most important session. A session that I had kind of had all my hopes based on that I can win this conference. And I don't have a sound. I don't have a voice. So what I did was I luckily know Finnish. You know that Finland has more heavy metal bands per capita than any other country in the world. So I know a lot of singers, and I had heard that if you from Finland, you can buy this from a pharmacy. You take anti-venom for viper bites, the snake, viper bites. You take that 3 pills and you get your voice back. Okay. Well, in Finland, the viper is like comparable to a bee sting. If a bee stung you and you take that, it's like cortisone or something like that, and huge amount of it anyway. But you take it and it just opens up your voice, and you can speak maybe for the next few hours, and then it's gone again. But anyway, so I did that, like 3 pills, took it down, and I got my voice back, and I delivered the session. I won my first ever conference, one of the best sessions I've ever done. And think about this: when I went on stage, not thinking about it, but I went on stage in Australia. In Finland, I took 3 white pills, viper bite, anti-venom. But when you go in front of an audience, and the first thing you tell your audience is, I was about to not be able to do the session because I lost my voice completely last night. But I went and got some anti-venom for viper bite so I can get my voice back. And there you have 1,500 people in the audience who live in a country that has the 10 most deadliest or venomous snakes in the world. Their viper bites, you die of. So they, of course, all thought I was walking with an IV, stuck in my hand, and I would just like have something going in straight to my veins. Although I only honestly took 3 pills. But I mean, now people in Australia think everyone was talking about it. That's the dude. I mean, that dude took anti-venom for viper bites just to get his voice back to be on stage. He's a hero. Add tips that get the aha effect. So I always try to do very simple things, but I try to find things that people don't know. Try to aim for something people don't know. I mean, the weirder they are, the better, you would say. I mean, someone once taught me when I was looking for a really difficult path in Regedit, and I was like, it's really difficult to find the image file execution options. It's so long here. This was like 2015, and then someone from the audience was like, why don't you use favorites? Regedit has favorites. Oh, okay, so they added the favorites to Windows 10. That's really cool. No, it was added in 2001. So annoying when someone knows something that you should have known for the past few decades. I call this the dreaded student hand moment. This is when someone raises their hand and they're like, and you instantly, when you say something like, you can't do this in Teams, and then there's someone with the raised hand and you're like, okay, you can do it, and now I'm gonna look like an ass. Anyway, I mean, check this out. This is like one of the coolest things I've seen in Windows 10 because I like the weirdest tricks you can do. I actually have a demo for this, okay? You know your switcher, this cool Alt Tab. Did you know that you can actually change it to the old one with a keyboard shortcut? So you can actually make the new one the old one. Okay. Maybe you'll join my courses and I can teach you these tricks that you don't know. Personal stuff. Remember, people are people's company pays the person to get to the conference. So you have to give them something that they can take back to work and show their boss that it was worth it. That's for sure. That's how you get people into conferences. That's not how you win over people's hearts. You win people over, make them like you by giving them personal stuff. Tell them how to cheat in Netflix. Tell them how to make their Unify wireless access points twice as fast. Give them something that they can take back home. Even better if it makes their lives easier with their kids or their better halves. I mean, that is golden. Remember to have the technical stuff that they have to go to the work and tell the boss, hey, I learned this at Ignite. It was so much worth it that you sent me. And they're like, okay, we have to send someone next year as well. But you don't win over people's hearts. That's done with the personal tricks. Make demos that people remember, okay? Remember, I'm going to tell you about my demos, okay? And like the best known demos. And before you can do any of this, you have to always remember the demo gods. So the first thing you have to always do is, the only way to fight against the demo gods is that you have to always sacrifice a virtual machine for the demo gods. That's just a good habit that keeps them happy. So what I started off being very famous for was in the Ignite 2015, I guess. I had a session called Zero Admin, Zero Problems. And I told people, I actually just read, I just read the on the chat. I mean, I can literally see it now. There is a Teams Nation code of conduct. Okay. So I am gonna do this demo anyway. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everyone. So what I started off being famous for was that I told people that how I live without admin rights all the time. I haven't used admin rights since 2002. Okay. So I work with a computer always that has a fingerprint reader, and then I register my index finger as my limited finger and as my limited user. And then when I have to use my admin rights, I just give it the finger. Okay. So I'll use my admin finger. And honestly, it works like a charm. I mean, just log on or log on with your face as a normal user. But when you need to elevate, when you need admin rights, just give it the finger. And it's perfect. Well, next year, people started to call me and said, well, sorry. This year where I had that session, they had the feedback form. And the feedback form said, we're going to go back to Ignite in Atlanta 2016 just to see Mr. Laiho do the same demo with the Windows Hello facial detection. And that's a dare, because now you needed a limited face, which I have by design, but you needed an admin face. And this is what actually works, okay? So you can have a normal user, and then when you need your admin rights, I call it, that's why I call my local admin Homer, because it's like, oh. It works like this as well. But I started looking like a fool when I was in my airport lounge and I was doing this all the time. It's actually super funny because for the first time in my life, I had Apple people started talking to me. I don't know if that happens to you, but I have like a ThinkPad yoga now, which is like contraception. I mean, it keeps people away from you. No one would ever be admiring your computer. It's the unsexiest machine you can ever see. So I had at that time a Surface Book, and that's a sexy machine. So what happened was that for the first time in my life, Apple people started to talk to me. So Apple people would come to my computer and they would be like, ooh, is this the new Surface Book? It's like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Wow. Is it really more expensive than a Mac? It's like, yes, it is. Oh, it must be great then. All right, really cool. And then I had to change from this because I started losing my new Apple friends because they thought I was crazy because I was with my computer with like this all the time. Now it could just be like this. And when they looked at me, I'd be like, oh, Windows. Oh. So it didn't look that bad. I needed to pump up my game. In 2018 at Orlando, I wanted to do a presentation about multi-factor authentication because that's the coolest thing. So we all know that the smart cards are really complicated, difficult to manage. Virtual smart cards will be deprecated. Microsoft has said so. So what I did introduce was the future of two-factor authentication, which is hedgehogs. So I actually brought a live hedgehog on stage, and I used it for two-factor authentication because the hedgehog, his name was Token. He's a hedgehog type token. Token lifetime is about 5 to 8 years, depends on how well you treat it. Tamper protection, hell yeah, think about it. Someone steals your token and it just crawls into a ball. But the magic is in the fact that the hedgehog has the same fingerprints as humans, so you can register a hedgehog paw as a password. So you can actually have a security hedgehog that you use when you need two-factor authentication. That is freaking cool. For 1 year, I was under investigation for violating the code of conduct for speakers at Microsoft. So that's the bad thing, but it was really worth it. I won the conference probably with almost that single demo. So bringing a live hedgehog to the conference was totally forbidden. So sorry for that. Please, your host, if you want more visibility for your sessions, take sessions that Microsoft likes. For example, at Ignite, I spoke about building a bulletproof Windows BitLocker because Microsoft wanted to promote a new white paper they had on BitLocker. And when you get sessions like that of a topic that you actually like, then that's golden, because Microsoft will then pump up your audience because they will get you more audience in because they want to promote that. I was listening to the keynote here today, and I was all the time like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if for once in a keynote someone would have said, when Vesa or the other people asked about what sessions are you going to see, and if they would have said, I'm going to see Sami's session. Like, that would be cool. I would get more and more people in this room. But no, they said, please see my colleagues. I mean, please see this topic. I mean, of course, if you want to get more people into your room, that can be done after you are famous for what you do. But especially in the beginning, you need a lot of evals. So you need a lot of people because you need numbers. To get into this top speaker competition, you need a certain level of, you need a certain amount of evals. So you have to get people in. Stereotypes works. Always try to make fun of yourself or try to make fun with people, because you don't want to make fun of people. You don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to do that. That's why I always make jokes about myself or things I do. That's safe. Like if you're talking about the line, the only place in the world where there's a line for the men's restroom is Ignite. Otherwise, it's always the opposite. It's the women's restroom that has a line to it, but only in our tech conferences. But like, we all know what we're talking about. It's a common thing. Failing and recovering is good. So if you have the time, blue screen your machine intentionally. Show them you can fix it. Fail. I fail intentionally all the time to get better evals. It looks cool when you're equipped to handle those cases. Oh, I've seen that so many times. Half of the audience is laughing like, Sami has Windows Update running in the middle of a session. Like, that's the worst demo effect you can ever have. And then I'll just show them how I'll recover. So it does work. Great content can be copyrighted, acted out. Sometimes it's just like what I did here. I had a comic strip from the internet that had a person showing a 15-inch wrench that could be used to penetrate BitLocker, and like they said, it's easy. Like, should we use the university supercomputer for calculating all the possible BitLocker keys? And then the other guy says, like, should we just buy a 15-inch wrench and just threaten them for their lives and get the pin code? But I had that, and then they scrubbed it away. There's a scrub process when you put your stuff into Ignite sessions, and they scrubbed it away because it's copyrighted. So I went into Lowe's and I bought one. So I made one of the best demos I've ever done. So I actually hid it under the podium, and then I had 2 people from the audience as volunteers. In US especially, you have a lot of volunteers. So I had 2 volunteers. The other one, I told them that I'll give you my computer with just a TPM protection, and you try to hack it, and I'm going to try to hack your computer because you have a PIN code. I was trying to prove them that it's not that much safer to have the PIN code. And then I just said, like, okay, go. And the one guy started putting some USB thing into my computer and tried to hack it. And I took the wrench and I jumped off the podium and I just ran to the guy and said, I'm going to freaking kill you unless you give me the pin code. And he was like, oh, 7625. I proved my point. Oops. That was a loud timer. I did not do that intentionally, but at least I know I'm getting out of time. Swag. Honestly. I bought 500 pairs of järjestelmänvalvoja sunglasses and gave them to my audience. I actually have extra people from Ignite to my sessions. I don't do it, but they know that what I'm going to do. So they give me extra people working in the room because they know that there's going to be hundreds of people who are going to try to get on the stage to get that swag. And they have security people there to make sure that that goes in order. Those cost like 10 euro cents per piece. So now people are wearing those and they'll remember me forever. So here's the checklist to end this story with. If you're doing a session that you want to win a conference, I love what I'm talking about. Selling and cool titles so that people will spot it. They won't read the abstract. They'll read the session title. So don't think about it. You have to have that in the title. Jokes added, self-irony as a recommended approach. So make sure you have the jokes, pre-pick them. Localized and current content. I had a good friend of mine from Scotland. He was speaking in Orlando for a conference I was hosting, and he spoke about the dark internet, the Tor network. And he's in Orlando, and he's like, I'm going to show you from here. Here we have a dark web page, and for $600, just click here and you can buy a gun. And then everyone in the room are like, it's like 300 in Walmart. So that joke doesn't work in US. You can get a gun whenever you want one. So make sure you localize your content. Make sure you understand who you're talking to. If you're going to make fun about darkness, maybe Finland might work, but if you're there during summer, there is no darkness at all. I mean, make sure you understand the environment you're in. War storyify the content as much as possible. Something personal for attendees to take work and home. Many people have this imposter syndrome where they think they are going to be in front of an audience and they don't know their stuff and they don't know enough. Just remember that there's a golden rule for speaking for a technical audience. You should be able to teach something that 80% of the people don't know. If you have a 75-minute session and you did not deliver a single thing during that 75 minutes that 80% of the people did not know, you're not going to win. Something you have to have that people did not know. They go to learn. Prove that you're critical and not marketing. You haven't drunk the Microsoft Kool-Aid too much. I always tell jokes about how stupid Windows is as an operating system. People like me for it because they know I am critical and they know I'm not. I'm just not a Microsoft sales guy. The aha moment. Try to find something that people didn't know, even if it's a ridiculous small thing. Like, did you know that you can, if you open Task Manager and it nowadays it saves the layout. If you want to reset it, you can press Control Alt Shift, and then you start Task Manager and it resets. Remind people about the importance of evals. Explain that you won't get back unless you get the evals. If you're going to do one single eval, do it about my session so that the next time Teams Nation stuff is happening, I am going to be invited again.